Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, My Wife's Friend Tried to Seduce Me and Destroy Our Marriage. I'm Josh, and I've been married to my wife, Regina, for about 5 years now. We met in college, dated for a few years, and tied the knot soon after graduation. Things have been pretty great between us. We both have good jobs, we love traveling together, and we've been talking about starting a family soon. I thought we had it all figured out. Enter Sabrina. Sabrina has been Regina's best friend since high school. They were roommates in college, and even though they ended up in different cities after graduation, they've always stayed close. I've known Sabrina almost as long as I've known Regina, and I always thought of her as a friend too. She was at our wedding. She'd come to visit us a couple times a year, and we'd always have a great time together, or so I thought. It all started about 6 months ago. Sabrina had just gone through a nasty breakup and decided she needed a change of scenery. She asked if she could come stay with us for a while, just to clear her head. Regina, being the good friend she is, immediately said yes. I was a bit hesitant. Having a house guest for an extended period can be stressful, but I agreed. After all, Sabrina was going through a tough time, and that's what friends are for, right? The first couple of weeks were fine. Sabrina helped around the house. We'd all have dinner together, and on weekends, we'd go out and explore the city. It was actually kind of nice having her around, but then things started to change. I first noticed it one morning when I was getting ready for work. I came out of the bedroom to grab some coffee, and Sabrina was in the kitchen wearing nothing but an oversized t-shirt. Now, I'm not a prude, but it seemed a bit inappropriate. She smiled at me and said, "Morning, Josh. Sleep well?" There was something in her tone that made me uncomfortable. I brushed it off, thinking I was reading too much into it. But over the next few days, I started noticing more things. Sabrina would accidentally brush against me when we were in the same room. She'd make comments about how fit I looked, asking if I'd been working out. Once when Regina was out, she asked me to help her reach something on a high shelf. And when I did, she pressed herself against me way more than necessary. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was imagining things, that Sabrina was just being friendly. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. About a week after the kitchen incident, I was working from home one day. Regina had left for work early, and I was in my home office when Sabrina knocked on the door. "Hey, Josh," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "I'm heading out for a run. Want to join me?" I shook my head, gesturing to my computer. "Sorry, I've got a lot of work to do." She pouted. "Aw, come on. A little exercise would do you good. Besides," she added with a wink, "I bet you'd enjoy the view." I felt my face heat up. No thanks, Sabrina. I really need to focus on this project." She shrugged, but I can see the disappointment in her eyes. "Your loss," she said, sauntering away. I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard the front door close. But the incident left me feeling uneasy. It was getting harder to brush off Sabrina's behavior as just friendly banter. A few days later, we were all watching a movie together. Regina was curled up next to me on the couch, with Sabrina on my other side. About halfway through the film, I felt Sabrina's hand on my thigh. At first, I thought it was an accident, but when I glanced at her, she was staring straight ahead at the TV, a small smile playing on her lips. I shifted uncomfortably, trying to move away without drawing Regina's attention. Sabrina's hand retreated, but a few minutes later, I felt her foot brushing against my calf. I stood up abruptly, muttering something about needing a drink. In the kitchen, I leaned against the counter, taking deep breaths. What was Sabrina playing at? And why wasn't Regina noticing any of this? The next incident happened when Regina and I were getting ready to go out for date night. I was buttoning up my shirt in our bedroom when Sabrina appeared in the doorway. "Wow, Josh," she said, her eyes roaming over me. "You clean up nice. Regina's a lucky girl." I mumbled a thanks, focusing on my buttons. She stepped closer. "Here, let me help you with that tie." Before I could protest, she was in front of me, her fingers working on my tie. She was standing way too close, her face just inches from mine. "You know," she said softly, "if you ever get tired of being such a good boy, I could show you how to have some real fun." I stepped back quickly, nearly tripping over the bed. "Sabrina, that's enough. I don't know what you think you're doing, but it needs to stop." She laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Oh, Josh, you're so cute when you're flustered." Just then, Regina called from the living room, asking if I was ready. Sabrina winked at me before sauntering out of the room. I stood there for a moment, my heart racing. This was getting out of hand. I needed to tell Regina what was going on, but every time I tried to bring it up, something would interrupt us, or I'd lose my nerve. I didn't want to cause drama. A part of me was afraid Regina wouldn't believe me. After all, Sabrina was her best friend. Things came to a head about a month into Sabrina's stay. Regina had to go out of town for a work conference for a few days. The night she left, I was sitting on the couch watching TV when Sabrina came and sat next to me, way too close. "So Josh," she said, her voice low, "what do you want to do while Regina's away? We could have some fun, you know?" I shifted away from her, feeling incredibly uncomfortable. "I was just planning on catching up on some work and maybe doing some house projects that Regina's been asking about." Sabrina laughed, putting her head on my thigh. "Come on, Josh, don't be so boring. I've seen the way you look at me. I know you want me." I stood up abruptly, knocking her hand away. "Sabrina, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to stop. I love Regina. I would never cheat on her, especially not with her best friend." Sabrina's face hardened. "Don't act so high and mighty, Josh. Men like you are all the same. You'll give in eventually." I shook my head, disgusted. "No, I won't. And I think you should find somewhere else to stay." She stood up, her eyes flashing with anger. "Fine, but don't think this is over." I watched her storm off to the guest room, my mind reeling. What the hell just happened? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? I barely slept that night, tossing and turning as I tried to figure out my next move. Should I tell Regina? Would she even believe me? Sabrina was her best friend after all. What if she thought I was the one who had initiated things? The next morning, Sabrina acted like nothing had happened. She was all smiles at breakfast, chatting about her plans for the day as if she hadn't tried to seduce me the night before. It was surreal. I decided to avoid being alone with her as much as possible. I left for work early and came home late, making excuses about a big project. When I was home, I stayed in my room or my home office. I could tell Sabrina was frustrated by my avoidance, but I didn't care. I just needed to make it through until Regina got back. But Sabrina wasn't giving up easily. The next evening, as I was making dinner, she came into the kitchen wearing a bikini. "Josh," she called, "can you put some sunscreen on my back? I'm going to go lay out by the pool." I kept my eyes firmly on the stove. "Sorry, Sabrina, I'm kind of busy here." She sighed dramatically. "Come on, it'll only take a minute. Unless you're afraid you won't be able to control yourself." I slammed the spatula down, turning to face her. "Sabrina, this has to stop. I'm not interested in you. I love Regina. What you're doing is wrong." For a moment, I saw a flicker of hurt in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by anger. "You're such a prude, Josh. I'm just trying to have a little fun. Regina doesn't have to know." I shook my head. "That's not the point. I don't want this, regardless of whether Regina knows or not. Please, just leave me alone." She stormed out of the kitchen, and I heard the back door slam a moment later. I leaned against the counter, feeling drained. How had things gotten so messed up? The day before Regina was due to return, I came home from work to find Sabrina waiting for me in the living room. She was dressed up, wearing a low-cut top and a skirt that was way too short. "Josh," she purred, "I think we got off on the wrong foot the other night. Why don't we talk about it?" I took a step back. "There's nothing to talk about, Sabrina. I love Regina. End of story." She moved closer, her eyes locked on mine. "Are you sure about that?" "Because I think you're just scared. Scared of admitting what you really want." Before I could react, she grabbed me and kissed me. For a split second, I was too shocked to move. Then I pushed her away, hard. "What the hell, Sabrina?" I shouted. "I told you I'm not interested." She stumbled back, her face a mix of anger and humiliation. "You'll regret this, Josh. You have no idea what you're passing up." I was about to respond when I heard a gasp from behind me. I turned to see Regina standing in the doorway, her suitcase at her feet, and a look of absolute horror on her face. "Regina," I exclaimed, "this isn't what it looks like." But Regina wasn't looking at me. Her eyes were fixed on Sabrina. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sabrina burst into tears. "Oh, Regina," she cried, "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to tell you, but Josh has been coming on to me ever since I got here. I've been trying to push him away, but he just won't stop. And now he tried to force himself on me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What? That's a lie, Regina. You can't believe this." Regina looked between us, confusion and hurt clear on her face. I don't understand. Sabrina, why would Josh do that?" Sabrina sniffled, wiping her eyes. "I don't know. I thought he loved you, but he kept saying how unhappy he was, how he wanted someone new. I told him to talk to you, but he said he wouldn't understand." I was speechless. How could Sabrina spin such an elaborate lie so quickly? And worse, I can see doubt creeping into Regina's eyes. "Regina," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "you know me. You know I would never do something like this. Sabrina's lying. She's the one who's been coming on to me. I've been trying to avoid her. That's why I've been working late." I was going to tell you when you got back, I swear. Regina looked at me, tears in her eyes. I don't know what to think. Sabrina's my best friend. Why would she lie about this? Because she's trying to break us up, I exclaimed. I don't know why, but she is. You have to believe me, Regina. Sabrina let out another sob. How can you say that, Josh? After everything you've done? Regina, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner, but I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you. Regina took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she looked at both of us. I think I need some time to process this. Sabrina, maybe you should go stay with your sister for a while. Sabrina nodded, still sniffling. Of course. I'm so sorry, Regina. I never meant for any of this to happen. As Sabrina went to pack her things, Regina turned to me. I don't know what to believe right now, Josh. I need some space to think. My heart sank. Regina, please. You have to know I would never cheat on you, especially not with Sabrina. Regina shook her head. I don't know what I know anymore. Just give me some time, okay? I watched helplessly as Regina went to her bedroom and closed the door. I wanted to follow her to make her understand, but I knew pushing her right now would only make things worse. The next few days were hell. Regina barely spoke to me, spending most of her time in our room or out of the house. I tried to give her space, but it was killing me to see her so hurt and confused. I racked my brain trying to figure out how to prove my innocence. Then it hit me. The security cameras. We had installed a security system a few months back that included cameras in the living room and the kitchen. If I could access the footage from the night Sabrina tried to kiss me, I could prove she was lying. I spent hours going through the footage until I found what I was looking for. There it was, clear as day, Sabrina coming on to me pushing her away. I felt a wave of relief washing over me. Finally, I had proof. I called out to Regina, who was in the kitchen. Regina, I need you to see something. She came into the living room, her face guarded. What is it, Josh? I took a deep breath. I know you're hurt and confused right now, but I need you to watch this. It's from our security camera from the night you came home. Regina hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I played the footage. As we watched, I saw Regina's expression change from skepticism to shock, then to anger. When it was over, she turned to me, her eyes wide. Josh, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I pulled her into a hug, relief flooding through me. It's okay. I understand why you were so confused. Sabrina's your best friend, or at least she was. Regina pulled back, wiping her tears. I can't believe she would do this. Why? Why would she try to destroy our marriage? I shook my head. I don't know. Maybe she was jealous? Or maybe the breakup messed her up more than we realized. Regina's face hardened. I need to talk to her. I need to hear her explain this. I nodded. Do you want me to come with you? She thought for a moment, then shook her head. No, I need to do this by myself. But thank you for understanding. Regina left to confront Sabrina, and I waited anxiously at home. A few hours later, she returned looking emotionally drained. How did it go? I asked. It was intense. At first, Sabrina tried to deny everything, saying the video must have been edited. But when I kept pressing her, she finally broke down. What did she say? I asked, sitting next to her. She said she's been in love with you for years, Regina said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ever since we started dating, she thought if she could break us up, she'd finally have a chance with you. I was stunned. I had no idea. Regina nodded. Neither did I. She said she's been holding on to this hope all these years, and when she came to stay with us, she decided it was her last chance to try and win you over. Regina, I swear I never gave her any reason to think that she had a chance. She cut me off, taking my hand. I know, Josh, I believe you. This is all on Sabrina. She let her feelings twist into something ugly, and she was willing to destroy our friendship and our marriage for it. We sat in silence for a while, both processing everything that had happened. Finally, I spoke. What happens now? Regina squeezed my hand. Now we heal. I told Sabrina I never want to see or speak to her again. It hurts losing my best friend, but I can't forgive what she tried to do to us. I nodded. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. I should have told you what was happening sooner. Regina shook her head. No, I understand why you didn't. You were in an impossible situation. I'm just glad we know the truth now. Over the next few weeks, Regina and I worked on rebuilding the trust in our relationship. We went to couples counseling, which helped us process our feelings and strengthen our communication. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, of lingering hurt, but we were committed to working through it together. As for Sabrina, We heard through mutual friends that she had moved to another state, supposedly for a job opportunity. Part of me felt sorry for her. To hold on to unrequited feelings for so long must have been painful. But a larger part of me was angry. Angry at the hurt that she had caused and the friendship that she had thrown away. Life throws curveballs sometimes. People you trust can betray you, and situations you never imagined can become your reality. But if you stay true to yourself and to the people you love, if you fight for what's right and honest, you can overcome anything. Regina and I are proof of that. As for Sabrina, I hope she's found peace and moved on. But more than that, I hope she's learned that true love isn't about possession or deception. It's about respect, trust, and wanting the best for the person you care about, even if that doesn't include you. Our story could have ended very differently. If I had given in to temptation, if Regina hadn't believed me, if we hadn't had that security footage, who knows where we'd be now. But we made it through, and our marriage is stronger for it. To anyone out there facing a similar situation, my advice is this: be honest, even when it's hard. Trust your partner, but also trust your instincts. And remember that real love, the kind that lasts, is built on a foundation of mutual respect and trust. So that's my story. Not one I ever thought I'd be telling, but one I'm oddly grateful for now. Because in the end, it showed me what real love looks like, and just how strong Regina and I are together. And that's a lesson worth all the pain and drama it took to learn it. Here are my thoughts about the story. Josh, my man, I feel for you, bro. Being in that situation must have been like walking on eggshells covered in lava. I mean, your wife's best friend trying to seduce you? That's some soap opera level drama right there, man. You know what? Mad respect for how he handled it. Dude was trying to be loyal and avoid drama, even when Sabrina was throwing herself at him, harder than a WWE wrestler off the top rope. Now, Sabrina, girl, what were you thinking? I get it. Unrequited love sucks. We've all been there, but trying to wreck your best friend's marriage? That's crossing a line, then nuking that line, and then salting the earth where that line used to be. The audacity of this chick, man. She went from 0 to 100 real quick, didn't she? One minute she's all, help me reach this high shelf, and the next she's making her attempt to seduce her best friend's husband. Wow, such a great friend, amazing. That was sarcastic for the more dense of you out there. And by dense, I mean Sabrina. But you know who the real MVP of the story is? Regina. Can we talk about how level-headed she was? When she walked in on that kiss, I was expecting plates to fly and doors to slam. But nah, she kept it together. Even when she was hurt and confused, she didn't jump to conclusions. She heard out the evidence and had the maturity to immediately recognize the situation as it was without bias. That's a strong woman right there. And let's be real, that security camera footage, talk about a gift from above. I was on the edge of my seat when Josh found that. It's like, boom, Uno reverse card on Sabrina's lies. In your face, homewrecker. But here's what really got me thinking. This whole mess could have been avoided if Josh had just told Regina what was going on from the start. I get why he didn't. He was trying to avoid drama and probably didn't want to hurt Regina. But man, honesty really is the best policy. Imagine if he told Regina the first time Sabrina got flirty. They could have shut that down real quick. And you know what else? This story's got me thinking about friendship. Like, how well do we really know our friends? Sabrina and Regina were supposed to be besties since high school, and look how that turned out. It's kind of scary to think someone you trust that much could be harboring those kinds of feelings and intentions. But at the end of the day, this story is about trust and communication in a relationship. Josh and Regina went through hell, but they came out stronger. They talked it out, got counseling, and worked on their issues. That's real love right there.
And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this.
Parents tried to force me into an arranged marriage for financial gain. Up until a few months ago, I thought I had a pretty normal relationship with my parents. We had our ups and downs like any family, but overall things were good, or so I thought. It all started when I graduated college last May with my degree in computer science. I was excited to start my new job at a tech startup in the city and finally moved out of my parents' house in the suburbs. I had big dreams of living on my own, building my career, and maybe even meeting someone special. But apparently my parents had very different plans for my future. One Sunday afternoon in June, my mom and dad sat me down in the living room with serious looks on their faces. I figured they wanted to talk about my plans to move out or give me some career advice. I was not prepared for what came next. "Emery, we found a husband for you," my dad said matter-of-factly. I stared at him in shock. "What? What are you talking about?" My mom chimed in. "We've arranged for you to marry Robert. His family owns that big import-export business downtown. The wedding will be in September." I felt like I was in some kind of bizarre dream. Arranged marriages weren't part of our culture or family tradition at all. My parents were your typical middle-class suburban couple. Dad worked in insurance and mom was a teacher. We went to church on Christmas and Easter. This came completely out of left field. "Is this some kind of joke?" I asked, looking back and forth between them, but their expressions remained deadly serious. "This is a wonderful opportunity for you, Emery," my dad continued. "They're extremely wealthy. You'll be set for life. And Robert seems like a nice young man." "Have you lost your mind?" I exclaimed, jumping up from the couch. "I'm not marrying a complete stranger. I have my own life and career. I'm moving to the city next month, remember?" My mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Sweetheart, please try to understand. Your father and I want what's best for you. This marriage will provide you with financial security that you could never achieve on your own." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I don't need financial security from some rich guy I've never met. I have a great job lined up. I can take care of myself. "Emery, be reasonable," my dad said sternly. "Do you have any idea how expensive it is to live in the city? Your entry-level salary will barely cover rent and groceries. Why struggle when you have this opportunity?" "Because it's my life," I shouted. "I want to live it on my own terms. I want to fall in love and get married when I'm ready, to someone I choose. This is insane." I stormed up to my room and slammed the door, my mind reeling. How could my own parents try to sell me off like this? And for money of all things? I always knew they were somewhat traditional, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. Over the next few days, my parents continued to push the issue. They showed me pictures of Robert, a skinny guy with glasses, who looked about as thrilled by this arrangement as I felt. They went on and on about the other family's wealth and history. My mom even started making wedding plans, talking about venues and dresses as if this was actually going to happen. I tried everything I could think of to reason with them. I explained how important my independence and career were to me. I told them I wasn't ready for marriage, especially to a total stranger. I even tried appealing to their religious side, pointing out that arranged marriages weren't exactly aligned with our Christian faith. But they wouldn't budge. If anything, they became more insistent. "This is not up for discussion," my dad said firmly. "The agreement has already been made with the family. You will marry Robert in September, and that's final." I was stunned by how willing they were to completely disregard my feelings and wishes. It was like I was talking to strangers, not the loving parents I thought I knew. Things came to a head about a week later when my parents announced we would be having dinner with Robert and his family that weekend. "Absolutely not," I said. "I'm not going along with this charade." My mom sighed in exasperation. "Emery, you're being ridiculous. Just meet the boy. You might actually like him if you give him a chance." "That's not the point," I yelled, my frustration boiling over. "I don't want an arranged marriage. Period. End of story. I can't believe you're trying to force this on me." "We're your parents," my dad said coldly. "We know what's best for you. You will attend this dinner, and you will marry Robert. I don't want to hear another word of argument." In that moment, I knew I had to get out of here. My own parents were trying to strip away my free will and autonomy. I couldn't stay in that house another day. "Fine," I said, forcing myself to stay calm. "I'll go to the stupid dinner." My parents looked relieved, thinking they'd finally worn me down. Little did they know, I had no intention of showing up to that dinner or sticking around for their arranged marriage scheme. The next day, while my parents were at work, I packed up as many of my belongings as I could fit in my car: clothes, important documents, sentimental items, and anything else I thought I might need. I left my cell phone behind since I knew they could probably track it. I withdrew as much cash as I could from my bank account, figuring they might try to cut me off financially. Then I drove to the closest electronics store and bought a cheap prepaid phone. With shaking hands, I typed out a message to my best friend, who I'd known since elementary school. "Parents trying to force me into arranged marriage. I had to leave. Can I crash with you for a while? I'll explain everything. She responded immediately. Yes, of course. Come over anytime. Are you okay? I breathed a sigh of relief. Beyond grateful to have such an amazing friend, I drove straight to her apartment, looking over my shoulder the whole way to make sure I wasn't being followed. When I got there, she enveloped me in a big hug. What the hell is going on? She asked as she ushered me inside. I burst into tears as I recounted everything that had happened over the past week. My best friend listened with wide eyes, interjecting with occasional exclamations of "what?" and "are you serious?" I just can't believe they would do this, I sobbed. My own parents. How could they try to sell me off like that? She rubbed my back soothingly. I'm so sorry, Em. That's seriously messed up. But you did the right thing by getting out of there. You can stay here as long as you need, okay? I nodded gratefully, beyond relieved to have a safe place to land. But I knew the hard part was just beginning. I had to figure out how to move forward and build a life for myself, likely without any support from my family. The next day, my phone was flooded with messages and missed calls from my parents. They ranged from concern to anger to guilt tripping. Emery, where are you? Please come home. We're worried sick. You're being incredibly selfish and immature. Come home this instant. How could you do this to us after everything we've done for you? I ignored them all. I wasn't ready to deal with them yet. I needed time to process everything and figure out my next steps. She was amazing, letting me crash in her spare room and giving me space to sort things out. After a few days, I felt ready to start putting my life back together. First order of business was my job. I'd been scheduled to start the following week, but I realized I couldn't stay in town. It was too risky. My parents knew where the office was located. With a heavy heart, I called the startup and explained that due to a family emergency, I would have to decline the position. They were understanding, but I was devastated to give up the opportunity I'd worked so hard for. Next, I had to figure out where to go. I couldn't impose on my best friend forever, and I needed to get away far from my parents. After doing some research online, I decided to move to Seattle. It was a tech hub with lots of opportunities, and about as far from my Midwest hometown as I could get while staying in the continental US. I spent the next couple of weeks searching for jobs and apartments in Seattle. It wasn't easy. Most places wanted employment verification and rental history, neither of which I really had. But eventually, I found a tiny studio apartment in a not great part of town that was willing to rent to me with a bigger security deposit. And I managed to land an entry-level IT support position at a small company. The pay wasn't great, but it would be enough to cover my basic expenses while I got on my feet. Before I left for Seattle, I knew I had to face my parents one last time. I couldn't just disappear without a word. So I steeled myself and went to the house while I knew they'd both be home. To say they were furious would be an understatement. My mom was crying and my dad was red-faced with anger. "How dare you run away like that?" he shouted. "Do you have any idea how worried we've been? How could you be so selfish and irresponsible?" I took a deep breath, determined to stand my ground. I'm an adult. I have the right to make my own choices about my life, including who I marry and when. We are your parents. We know what's best for you. Why can't you just trust us? "Because you're trying to force me into a marriage I don't want," I exclaimed. "That's not love, it's control. I don't know why you're doing this, but I won't be part of it. I'm moving away and living my own life." My dad's face hardened. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. You'll be cut off completely. No money, no support, nothing. Is that what you want?" I felt a pang in my chest at his words, but I refused to let it show. If that's how you feel, then yes. I'd rather struggle on my own than be trapped in a loveless marriage for your financial gain. "You ungrateful little brat," he spat. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Get out of my sight." My mom made one last tearful plea for me to come to my senses, but I stood firm. I walked out of that house with my head held high, even as my heart was breaking. The drive to Seattle was long and lonely. I had a lot of time to think about everything that had happened. Part of me still couldn't believe my parents had tried to basically sell me into marriage. I wondered if they'd always seen me that way, as a commodity to be traded, rather than a person with my own dreams and autonomy. It made me question my entire childhood and relationship with them. But another part of me was excited for this fresh start. For the first time in my life, I was truly on my own. No one telling me what to do or who to be. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating. Getting settled in Seattle was tough. My apartment was tiny and in a sketchy neighborhood. My job was stressful and didn't pay great. I was lonelier than I'd ever been, knowing virtually no one in the city. There were plenty of moments where I questioned my decision and was tempted to go crawling back home. But I refused to give up. I threw myself into work, determined to prove myself and move up the ladder. I started taking coding classes at night to expand my skills. Slowly but surely, I began to make friends through work and meetup groups. A few months in, I met a guy named Jason at a local tech networking event. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of sci-fi and indie rock. Unlike Robert, the stranger my parents had tried to force on me, Jason was someone I genuinely connected with. We started dating, and for the first time, I got to experience what it was like to be in a relationship of my own choosing. As the months passed, things continued to improve. I got a promotion at work with a nice pay bump. I was able to move to a better apartment in a safer area. My circle of friends grew, and I started to really feel at home in Seattle. I still thought about my parents often. Part of me missed them terribly and wished things could just go back to how they were before. But I knew that wasn't possible. They had shattered my trust in a fundamental way. I couldn't unhear the cruel things they'd said or unfeel the pain of their betrayal. Unlike what I had initially expected, my parents never reached out to me. No calls, no emails. At first, this silence hurt more than their angry words had. But as time went on, I realized it was probably for the best. A clean break allowed me to move forward without the constant push and pull of a toxic relationship. Holidays were especially challenging in those first couple of years. While my friends went home to their families, I found myself alone, but I refused to let it get me down. I started my own traditions, volunteering at a local shelter on Thanksgiving, hosting a misfit Christmas for other friends who couldn't go home, taking solo trips to explore my new home state. As more time passed, my life in Seattle continued to flourish. I eventually landed a great job as a software engineer at a major tech company. Jason and I moved in together and started talking about marriage on our own terms when we were ready. I had a wonderful group of friends who felt like the family I chose for myself. There were still moments when I felt sad about the rift with my parents, but overall, I knew I'd made the right choice in forging my own path. I was building a life I could be proud of, surrounded by people who loved and supported me for who I truly was. About 3 years after I'd left home, I got an unexpected phone call. It was my younger sister, Sydney, who had just turned 18. "Emery?" she said hesitantly when I answered. "It's Sydney. I hope it's okay that I'm calling." "Of course it is," I said warmly. I'd always felt guilty about leaving Sydney behind when I fled, even though I knew I had no choice. "Is everything all right?" "Not really. Mom and Dad, they're trying to do the same thing to me. They want me to marry this guy from Dad's golf club. I don't know what to do." My blood ran cold. I couldn't believe they were pulling the same stunt again. "I'm so sorry. Are you safe? Do you need help getting out of there?" "I think so," she said. "I remember how you left. I've been saving up money in secret just in case. But I'm scared, Em. I don't know if I can do this on my own." "You're not alone," I said firmly. "I'm here for you, whatever you need. Why don't you come stay with me in Seattle for a while? I got plenty of space, and it'll give you time to figure things out." Sydney's relief was palpable. "Really? You do that for me?" "Of course," I said. "You're my sister. I'm not going to let you go through this alone like I did." We made plans for Sydney to fly out the following week. I was nervous about seeing her after so long, but mostly, I was just glad I could be there for her in a way no one had been there for me. She ran into my arms sobbing. My heart broke for her, remembering how scared and alone I'd felt in her position. But I was also filled with pride at her bravery in standing up for herself and getting out. Over the next few months, I helped Sydney get settled in Seattle. She enrolled in community college classes and got a part-time job. Slowly but surely, she started to come out of her shell and embrace her newfound freedom. Seeing Sydney flourish made me reflect on my own journey over the past few years. I'd gone from a scared, confused girl running away from home to a confident, successful woman living life on my own terms. It hadn't been easy, but it had absolutely been worth it. I knew the road ahead for Sydney would be challenging too, but I was grateful I could be there to support her every step of the way. Together, we were breaking the cycle of control and building the lives we truly wanted. As for our parents, they remained silent. No attempts to reach out, no apologies, no acknowledgement of the harm they'd caused. It was as if Sydney and I had ceased to exist in their world once we refused to comply with their demands. While this realization was painful, it also brought a sense of closure. We knew exactly where we stood, and we could move forward without any lingering hopes of reconciliation. 5 years after I'd left home, My life looked completely different from what my parents had tried to force upon me. I was now a senior software engineer, respected in my field and earning more than I ever could have in an arranged marriage. Jason and I were happily married, having tied the knot in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends who had become our chosen family. Sydney was thriving too. She graduated from college with honors and landed a great job in marketing. She was dating a kind, supportive guy she'd met through work, someone she'd chosen for herself. We'd both built lives we loved, full of purpose, joy, and genuine connections. And we'd done it entirely on our own terms, without compromising our values or autonomy. There were still moments when the absence of our parents stung. Milestones like my wedding or Sydney's college graduation felt bittersweet without them there. But we learned to fill those gaps with the love and support of the family that we had created for ourselves. More importantly, we learned that we were strong enough to stand on our own. We didn't need our parents' approval or support to lead fulfilling lives. We'd escaped the arranged marriages they tried to force on us, and in the process, we'd found something even more valuable, the power to shape our own destinies. As I look back on the journey that had brought me to this point, I feel a profound sense of gratitude, grateful for the strength I found within myself, for the amazing people who supported me along the way, and yes, even grateful for the crisis that had propelled me into this new life. I'd lost my birth family, but I'd gained so much more. Freedom, self-respect, and a life built on my own terms. And that, I realize now, was worth more than any arranged marriage could ever offer. Here are my thoughts about the story. Emery's parents? A couple hundred years off from where you were supposed to be, perhaps? I mean, what century do they think we're living in? Trying to marry off their daughter like she's a prize cow at the county fair? I was sitting here, jaw on the floor, thinking, no way this still happens in modern America. I mean, this wasn't even a cultural thing for them. They literally just wanted to start climbing that financial ladder and didn't bother to spit out an argument better than, it'll be good for you. The way Emery just up and left in the middle of the night, it took some serious guts. I'll be honest, I was half expecting her to chicken out or for her parents to catch her. My heart was racing during that whole escape scene. It felt like I was watching a heist movie, but instead of stealing diamonds, she was stealing her home. She was stealing her own life back. Now let's talk about Seattle. Moving to a new city knowing absolutely no one, those first few months for Emery, oof, even when starting fresh, the person usually has some kind of contact they can rely on for support. And it isn't thrown raw into the deep end, but Emery didn't get that privilege. And that's really what it is, isn't it? A privilege. I mean, it's something we all take for granted. But anyone with some kind of unusual circumstance could be going through that right now. Someone probably is, really. And I think we need to acknowledge that. So if someone near you says they're new to town, well, maybe consider extending a hand of help when they ask. There's one part that really got me though, the silence from her parents. I mean, ghosting your own kid, that's cold. Like Antarctic levels of cold. I kept waiting for them to show up, to try and drag her back, or at least apologize. But nada, zit, zilch. It's wild how sometimes the absence of something can be louder than its presence, you know? And then bam, plot twist with the sister calling. The fact that Emery's parents tried to pull the same stunt again, I was ready to climb through my screen and give them a piece of my mind. That's when I guess it fully hit me. The implication of how they really didn't care about their kids. I mean, like dude and dudette. You already tried this once and it ended horrifically. You think it's actually going to work just because you tried it twice? But here's what really stood out to me about the story. It's not just about escaping a bad situation. It's about building something better. Emery didn't just run away from an arranged marriage. She ran towards a life that she actually wanted. And then she helped her sister do the same thing. You know, it's easy to romanticize the idea of cutting ties with toxic family members. There are a million memes out there about choosing your own family and all that. But this story, it shows how messy and painful that process really is. The holidays alone, the missed milestones, the lingering what-ifs. It's not all liberation and freedom. There's real loss there too. I'm not saying you have to tie yourself down to toxic family, of course not. But I am saying that it's a decision you should prepare yourself for the consequences of. There are privileges that come with having a family, toxic or not, that we never even realize until it's too late. Like all hard decisions, make sure to think this one through.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.